Hello from Slide Nerd and hello from Weaves. In the last video, I was talking about the layout inflator in Android, where I discussed the basic stuff about how the inflator works. Here, I'm gonna go here to the more advanced stuff that we see. So if you have not seen the last video, please go ahead, check it out, because that is the video which builds the base for talking about the layout inflator. So here, again, let me discuss the sample scenario. We had our text view, which is inside a sublayout.xml file, which I want to inflate. Then it looks like this. You have the sublayout.xml text view inside. Then I have the activity underscore main, which contains nothing but a frame layout with an yellow background and a linear layout with a blue background. I've again represented those colors over here: frame layout with yellow background, linear layout with a blue background, and obviously my text view has a pink background, right? Magenta, whatever you call it. So this is the second form of the constructor inflate, or the method inflate. So let me discuss. So if you guys remember, the last time we did not specify any parent, we simply said null, right? And then what we did, manually get the frame layout or the linear layout in code and then say dot add view, right? And that is what we did. Here we go one step ahead and we automatically specify a parent by saying r.layout.sublayout comma linear. Take a look at that. This linear which you see over here is going to be the parent of the text view, which is inside your r.layout.sublayout. And one more thing, this time v does not contain the text view. V contains a reference to this linear which is specified over here. So what does v contain? It contains the linear layout. Who's the parent of the linear layout? The frame layout, right? And what about the layout params? The layout params are inherited from this frame layout which you see over here. So how does it look? Frame layout, linear layout, text view. Remember, this time you don't have to manually add the text view to the linear layout by saying l.addView. Alright, it is done right here in the first step, where you specified that the linear layout should be the parent of this r.layout.sublayout, which contains the text view, and here you can see it. So how does the appearance look like? It looks the same basically. There's no difference at all. You won't be able to tell anything. Automatically added to the linear layout, so don't call add view here. You just went one step ahead and simply added it automatically. Now there is one more thing I need to tell you. It is this. It is also the same as saying l.inflate r.layout.sublayout, specify a parent linear, and saying true. Now what does this true mean? There's a third parameter called boolean attached to root, which is the biggest source of confusion, no matter if you're a beginner or the most advanced Android developer out there. This is probably the biggest source of confusion which people are searching on developer.android.com. So now I'm going to discuss about this most ultimate method which you have, which has three parameters. Alright, so here you specify saying view v is l.inflate. You specify the layout file that you want to inflate. You specify the parent, which is your linear, and you specify something as true. Now what does this true mean? Well, true means something like this. True is a third parameter called attached to root, which means r.layout.sublayout should be inflated, which contains your text view, right? And it should be a part of your parent, which is your linear layout. Now this is the default behavior which I showed you in the last slide as well. But then you ask me, what is false then? Don't worry, I will show you what happens when you put false over there. For now, it's the same thing. Now v contains just the same thing, right? Linear layout, this time v contains, because you have already specified a parent over here. Who's the parent of the linear layout? It's the frame layout. What about the appearance? Where is it derived from? It's also derived from this parent, which is frame layout, right? That's what your layout params contains. How does it look? Very simple. Frame layout, you have the linear layout, you have the text view inside the linear layout. And remember, these two steps of merging the text view and the linear layout, you did it right here. You don't need to add anything, alright? So again, how does it look? Well, it just looks the same way it did. And here you automatically added to the linear layout, so don't call add view. Now the biggest question that you have at this point is, hey, what happens if I put a false over here? And that is the biggest one. We are gonna talk about this now. If you've been watching everything about the layout inflator till this point, then go ahead, give yourself a big pat on your back, because this is going to be the most complicated part of the layout inflator, and also the last thing that I want to discuss about the layout inflator. So you guys ready for this? Alright, so let's go and discuss what we already discussed about it. We had the inflate method in two forms, right? Both of them gave a reference to this linear layout inside V, right? Problem is, we don't want a reference to the linear layout inside V. We want a reference to the text view inside your r.layout.sublayout file so that we can directly manipulate it. Now, what do I mean by directly manipulate it? I want to directly call v.setText. I don't want a linear layout here, then I will say linear layout.findView by ID text view, and then I will try and manipulate the text view. I don't want that. I want a direct reference to the text view, right? Second problem is something like this. It's not a problem, it's an issue. This would be the completed hierarchy of the structure. There will be a frame layout, there will be a linear layout, and your text view will be inside this linear layout. You want to make sure that the text view obeys the constraints specified by this linear layout, which is actually the parent after everything has been added, right? So if you remember, the constraints are specified in the form of the layout params object. So you want to make sure that this text view gets a reference to the layout params of this linear layout so that it can obey the constraints. Now, what do I mean by that? For example, if you have a relative layout over here and you put a text view inside, and let's say you want to align the text view to the right side of the relative layout, what would you do if the text view will not align itself after you say align parent right? You will be like, hey dude, come on man, what the hell? I want the text view on the right side. Why isn't this thing working? You will be saying like that, right? So you don't want that to happen. You want the text view to obey the commands and constraints set by this linear layout. For that, we need a reference to the layout params object of the linear layout so we can control the appearance of the text view. So these are the two very important points, and these are the two issues that the current method solves. Alright, so this is the final form of the method, which is something like this: l.inflate r.layout.sublayout, linear, whereas which is the parent, and you say false. Now what does this false do? Very simple. The false means that r.layout.sublayout should be inflated, but it should not give a reference to this linear layout inside V. It should give us the reference to the text view. Remember the first issue that we discussed? Second, this linear is passed here in the second place so that you can use its layout params object to control the appearance of this text view. So now take a look. What does V contain? V contains a text view just like we needed. Parent of V. The parent of V is null even though you have specified linear here. Remember, since you set false over here, this linear, which is a second parameter, is not used. It is simply used to provide a reference to the layout params object over here, which is derived from the linear layout, and that is why you pass linear over here. So at this point, it's just the same as the first thing that you saw, where the parent was null, and there the layout params was also null, but here the layout params is simply derived from this linear that you passed here as a second parameter. And this is the most used method of the layout inflater, because always you want a reference to the view directly, like the text view, and you never want a parent to come in between, so you simply specify null, but you also need the parent here so that you can get its layout params. That's exactly what this method does. So at this point, V contains the text view. Alright, it is not added yet because this is where your false method works. It crosses the parent off and says, hey, you're not gonna get added. Alright, so at this point you need to go ahead, manually add it, just like you used to add it previously if you have seen the last video. So it's blank at this point. So I hope you guys have understood something about how the layout inflater works and all its methods. Now don't worry about this too much. I will take an example of the list view and show you exactly what happens when your view does not obey the constraint specified by its parent, and why this is the only method that you can use to inflate a custom row inside your list view. Alright, so if you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel, comment, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next vid. Have a nice day.